You ready for rapid fire?
Let's do it, baby.
All right.
Rapid fire.
I'll tell you what. Let's start with a listener question for
Okay.
rapid fire. Shannon, true or false? If the Notre Dame offensive line had been performing to their success later in the year during the Marshall game, then Tyler Buchner doesn't get hurt and the season has a different outcome.
I will say true, and I will expound on that and say that if they were playing to their later success in the season, they probably beat Ohio State too. So they could not move the football offensively against Ohio State, and they didn't do well obviously against Marshall either. So if they were playing the way they were the second half of the season in those games, absolutely, I think they beat both of those teams. And Tyler Buchner being the quarterback all year, they beat Stanford too.
The problem I have with that, I guess the argument goes to if the offensive line is better, then they've got a lead against Marshall. And so then Tyler Buchner doesn't need to run, toward the end of the Marshall game. And therefore he doesn't get hurt when he gets tackled against Marshall. That argument, okay, I guess I can see that. But the problem is he was going to run at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He was running a lot those first couple games. And that's the kind of play that you can get hurt on any play. Sure. Running, whether the offensive line was better or not. So there's no doubt, and I agree, if the offensive line had played better against Ohio State, I think that they have a really good chance to win that game. And it doesn't come down to one interception, or not one interception, but one stupid zero blitz that turned into a touchdown.
Yeah.
Ohio State, and D-Rock Irish is right. The offensive line was atrocious the first 4 games, but then it turned around. But it's hard for me to go back and sort of, redo the Buchner injury just because of the offensive line, just because, again, you get tackled on any play. So Chi-Town asks, will you be calling the Notre Dame games in Greenville? Well, that's assuming they get there, but the answer, of course, is yes. I'll be with them throughout the NCAA tournament as long as they are playing in the NCAA tournament. Okay, we already did that one. So let's go to a question that we already had lined up for today. Right. Fill in the blank. The Notre Dame football player you most want to see live during the spring is blank.
I'm sorry. I know that this is such a easy answer. And some people probably want something, out of the nowhere, like, who's Vince looking at? It's Sam Hartman. I'm sorry. I want to see how he throws the football in a Notre Dame uniform to Notre Dame's receivers. That's what I'm excited to see. I like the glitz and the glamour and all of that. And I like offense and I like quarterback play. And so I want to see how he looks in a Notre Dame uniform.
All right. Well, I was wondering where you would go with this. Mine, because the guy's been playing for 5 years, so it's not like we haven't seen him on film. Mine is Tobias Merriweather, because I want to see if Sam Hartman, how quickly he is able to, make, I guess, legitimate receivers out of this young group of talented wide receivers Notre Dame has that Tobias is at the front of. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Tobias. I want to see what it looks like with him catching passes from Sam Hartman with a legitimate quarterback throwing him the football this year and running the offense. That's what I want to see. And I mean, really, you can throw in the rest of the receivers behind him. But again, Tobias is obviously at the front of the list. So
my secondary group that I'm going to be paying attention to is the guard position. Like who is going to take those? I mean, that's
battles and
that's going to be the next. Like, how does Billy Schrouth look? How does Rocco Spindler look? How does Kristofic look? Like those 3 guys specifically. Can somebody take hold of those 2 guard spots? Like those would be the ones that I'm excited to see. I mean,
Shannon was obviously here last night because Jesse's would be Rocco Spindler.
It would
I'm
be.
Still shocked that Jesse took Rocco with the first round pick
of
the spring breakout player offensive draft.
So was I.
Yes. Speaking of which, Vince, you trolled me last night. You weren't even part of the show.
I know.
You're sitting in the chat and you trolled me saying Andrew Kristofic not eligible to be a breakout player this spring. So my question to you is, How do you define a potential breakout player candidate, Vince D'Addario?
To me, a breakout player is somebody that hasn't
You're
had
already
significant.
wrong.
I know. You had look. Any argument you're going to have against what I have to say here is absolutely accurate. I can't even argue with it. But for me, I see when I think of a breakout player, I think of somebody that hasn't had significant snaps, hasn't been on the field, hasn't started games, something like that. So Andrew Kostavic doesn't fit in my category. Your argument is 1,000% good because I see where you're coming
I noticed
from.
you weren't chiming in after I was responding to it last night.
So. No, I didn't respond because I was told by other people that I had to put a super chat in order to talk, and so I stopped talking. But no, look. I get where you're coming from. He was an injury starter. I mean, he started because somebody was injured. He didn't. I don't want to say he didn't earn a starting spot, but he wasn't one of the 5 starters, right? I mean, he wasn't. And so a breakout for him would be he's been named a starter, and then he goes out and he dominates.
Well, yeah, at the very least, like he's kicking butt, and he's like people are saying, man, Kostavic is looking really good, and whatever. Like you haven't heard that talk about not that people have talked poorly about him, but my point is he started one game last season, and that was the game that Jarrett Patterson, missed because of the injury, the Ohio State game, and it's not that he played badly in that game, and he played more than that the year before that, but that was also a makeshift offensive line that I think I counted like 9 different guys started on the line 2 years ago, so like, and again, even though he started more games in 2021 than 2022, it didn't stick. It's, he didn't, there was no carryover. It didn't become a starter. So like, to me, you've got 2 guard spots open. This is opportunity for a guy like him. It's like, I was thinking about this as an analogy. Like you've got September call-ups in baseball, and those guys might play, they might even start some games when they get called up, but like the next year, they're still eligible for rookie of the year, So like there's a difference between playing and I think, being a guy that people are talking about. And I think that part of being a breakout guy is like people are there's buzz around you, like people are talking about you heading into the summer. So
fair.
That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Okay. So the Indianapolis Colts are expected to release Matt Ryan. And in the meantime, there's all this Aaron Rodgers stuff. And I mean, man, today was an Aaron Rodgers day of Aaron Rodgers day. And all this Rodgers to the Jets stuff going on. Should the Colts have been bigger players, considering where they are right now, in trying to get Aaron Rodgers this offseason?
I mean, it's so hard for me to remove my utter hatred for Aaron Rodgers when I answer these types of questions, Sean. Because my gut instinct.
Should they have tried to get a future Hall of Fame quarterback who still wants to play NFL football?
No, because he's a headache, and I wouldn't want that. I would not want him around my organization. I just wouldn't. I think he's more bother than he's worth at this point in his career. Okay, so. No, and they've done the retread of future Hall of Fame quarterbacks the last few years, and it really hasn't worked out, real well, right? I think you could make the argument that Rivers was, I think he worked out. I think he was the bridge you were looking for.
Decent for a year.
Yeah, right.
They obviously needed more after that.
And I was shocked, to be honest with you, that Matt Ryan was such a failure in Indianapolis.
Me too.
I really am. I thought that he would be much better. And he got benched like 3 different times or something. It was not good. Right. And so they're going to cut him, blah, 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 blah. So no, I don't think they should have gone after Rodgers. I think they have to figure out who their quarterback of the future is. And they just need to ride that wave at this point, just go for it. And so I think they should have been more involved in moving up in the draft if they think that one of those 2 guys is your franchise quarterback, because at 4, you're not going to get the 2 best guys.
Right. And they obviously feel like they, I don't know if this played into them not trading up with the Bears to begin with, but the Colts were one of the first teams that was being talked about moving up to get that number 1 pick, trading with the Bears. Does that mean that they're not that confident in this year's quarterback class? Well, again, if not, then if you're not confident enough to trade up to number 1 to get one of these guys, you're certainly not going to be happy with what you get that lands to you at number 4. So you're
Right.
probably not going to waste your time going there. But what you do know is this is going to be the 7th straight year that they've had a different starting quarterback
Crazy.
to open the season. It goes Scott Tolzien, Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett, then Phillip Rivers, then Carson Wentz, and of course Matt Ryan last year. I've spent the last couple of days saying, I'm really not sure about Lamar Jackson and, whether or not I would want Lamar Jackson on my team. And it's not because I don't like Lamar Jackson. It's because of as I've said, you've got to rebuild your whole offense around Lamar Jackson. Yeah. What I wasn't thinking about was the fact that Steichen, the new head coach, just came from Philadelphia, where he has a quarterback fairly similar in style to Lamar Jackson, of course, in Jalen Hurts. And he's got Jonathan Taylor and he's got a solid offensive line. It's like at this point, if you're the Colts, what are you going to do? Because, are you going to try to that division is very winnable if you've got a quarterback, like a true franchise quarterback at the helm. And, you'd have to pay Lamar Jackson a lot. You're going to have to give up that number 4 pick and probably another first-round pick to get him. But I'm starting, again, like when you look at Steichen's background and the offense that he just ran and Lamar Jackson, I think that there are a lot worse probably options for the Indianapolis Colts than Lamar Jackson, the more I think about it. But, again, you're going to have to give up something to do it. And that seems to be part of the Colts' problem as well, is they're not willing to give up draft capital to go out and make moves. They don't want to spend a lot of money. They don't want to make moves. And in the meantime, they're stuck with crappy quarterback play.
Yeah. It's not good in Indy right now. I mean, they got rid of their best corner. I mean, yes, they're good defensively, but
I'm happy they gave up their best corner because
I know because they went to the Cowboys. I know. I saw that. I saw that.
Very happy about that. Fill in the blank. After seeing the Bears land their massive trade haul from Carolina for the number 1 draft pick, they should do blank for Lovie Smith for his part in getting them that number 1 pick to begin with.
I think he's on the short list for a Super Bowl ring when the Bears finally get one. I think that's if this draft and the subsequent drafts lead to that, I think he should be involved.
I think you're absolutely right. Like at the very least, they should make him some kind of special assistant, if he's not working for somebody else. But you're right. If they win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, based on what they get out of this trade that they made, Lovie Smith should absolutely get a ring. And for anyone who forgot, remember the Colts were actually involved in that, and that was in Indy, 4th and 20. They score a touchdown with seconds left, and then they could have kicked to tie the game, but instead they go for 2 for the win, and they won, and that ended up giving the Bears the number 1 pick.
It's a great day. It's a great day.
It's just like I love Lovie just sticking it to the Texans on his way out of town. It's like apparently the owner was standing on the sideline and like the look on his face while all this is going on. I would have loved to see that. I would have loved it. All right, so Tommy's got a question. How good is Elkhart football? They're coming to play my high school, Massillon, this upcoming season. FYI, that game is September 8th. Y'all should come and bring Jesse since he's only an hour or so. Well, Elkhart not that good last year. They've kind of gone downhill. After consolidating 2 schools as well, everyone thought they were going to be the next big power in this area. They were good for 1 year, and it's kind of haven't been as good the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been iffy, and I'm happy that they're playing Massillon on the 8th because then they play Penn the following week, and they're probably going to get beat up pretty good. And I'm okay with that because Elkhart and Penn are pretty much the local rivals around here because now Elkhart is the same size as Penn, right? So that'll be a home game for Penn. So I'll be working that night, T-Gun. So I can't make the trip to Ohio.
Yeah, and I'll be doing Mishawaka football again this fall unless something changes. So I'm in the same boat.
Which the Mishawaka-Penn rivalry heats back up this year.
It does.
Very excited about.
I'll be out at Penn, and I'll be leaning on you to make sure we've got a good connection out
Gotcha,
there.
buddy. I'm gonna try to get out of my my duty, and maybe I can call the game with you. We'll see. I don't know.
Ooh,
I don't know.
that
Though.
would
I don't
be
know if that'll-
interesting if they let you do that.
I don't think they would, but we'll see. We
Yeah.
shall see. But no, Elkhart is not great this year, or they haven't been great. Maybe they will take a big step in the right direction, but Massillon should take that one pretty easily.
Yeah. So we talked the other day about North Carolina's decision not to play in the NIT this year after they didn't make the NCAA tournament. Turns out the team voted not to play. That's according to some of the dads of players on the team, what they told USA Today, that the team voted not to play in the NIT. Are you good with that, Vince?
I'm not good with that because I will double down on the fact that I'm upset that they didn't go and play, because that I have an issue with the culture of the program if these guys are voting to not continue to play with each other. Like I've got an issue with the whole situation with the way things are going over in Carolina. So I double down on the fact that I'm disappointed that they voted that way, because obviously something's not good down there.
I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's not like you haven't heard of, like 500 football teams, or, like I think just a couple years back, like didn't Notre Dame turn down the NIT, because the team basically voted, not that they didn't want to play either. So
yeah, they did.
It's not unprecedented. It's happened, but
sure.
I think the bigger thing with North Carolina is it just kind of seems like sour grapes. And I agree with the culture, especially like when we were talking about Tom Penders and all the stuff he was saying about him, about how they don't play hard and all this different stuff. Like, I don't know. I guess we're definitely older school guys. It's like, you want to play, you should want to play, and all that.
That's true.
Different kind of stuff. But it is North Carolina, and like, again, like the sour grapes aspect, it basically comes off as North Carolina saying we're too good for the NIT, so we're not going to play in the NIT. Yeah. So
I get that.
In general, I would rather leave it up to a vote of the team than just the coaches making that decision. Like, you guys vote, we'll go with what you want to go with. But the administration signed off on it as well.
Yeah.
I
get the team having a vote and all that. I guess I'm just disappointed in the way that it turned out, because they can say that they're too good for the NIT, but are you? Because you didn't make the NCAA tournament, so are you too good for the NIT?
Very true. Very true. All right, I want to see. We are not Marshall. Which happens first, Notre Dame National Championship or Bears Super Bowl victory?
That's the easiest question that we've had all night long. It's Notre Dame National Championship. Bar none. Like, I can get excited about some things about the Bears and all that. I will be the last one to get in line to say that the Bears are going to win a Super Bowl. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Notre Dame right now is much closer to a national championship than the Bears are to a Super Bowl. But who knows? We'll see what these picks turn into.
Sure.
Benjamin wants to know, do you like what the Bears are doing with their trade partners? And if you were the Bears, who's your first pick?
Whoever the best offensive lineman is on the board when it gets to number 9, that's who I would pick, because that is the biggest issue for the Bears was their offensive line. They need to shore it up. I was upset when they didn't get McGlinchey. You need an offensive lineman, period. So that's who I would go with if they're still at 9 when the timer starts ticking.
Yeah, I'll go with your answer on that one.
and look,
I don't know about Jackson Smith and Jigba. They definitely need to get better in the offensive line, and they have a poor history of where they take offensive linemen. And I think that you could really anchor that line with where they're picking right now at number 9, assuming they don't trade down again. So
yeah, no, and look, I will never claim to know as much about the NFL draft as our buddy Ryan, but whoever the best lineman is, that's who I want. And I'll ask Ryan when we get closer. Who should Bears pick?
All right, CBS lead college basketball announcer Jim Nantz calling his last NCAA tournament this year. The Final Four is in Houston. Nance is a University of Houston alum, and I guess he has used the word "we" when referring to the top-seeded Cougars in interviews, as in, we need to do this, we need to do that. We're number one, whatever. So are you good with that, Vince?
So I have been on record that I can't stand when people say we. And I blame you for that because you're the one that told me that announcers aren't supposed to do that. And I took that to heart back in 2004 when you told me that. I took it to heart.
Right?
I have zero problem with him doing this because he's an alum of the school. I have zero issue with it because it is we. He
That's
went
fair.
to school there. He has paper on the wall from that
to an
school.
extent, but he is still supposed to be impartial when he is on the air talking about. You're saying when he's calling the games. You're saying when he's calling the games.
Yes.
But outside of that,
it's we all day, baby.
See, I don't think I say we when it comes to Kansas.
You don't. You never do.
Okay.
But I would give you a pass if you did.
If I did. Okay.
Yeah.
See, like I don't say we when it comes to Kansas. I don't say we, like with the Cowboys, Notre Dame, whatever. Well, I don't say it.
You never played for the Cowboys.
Game. That's that's fair. But I'm just saying, like of my all the teams that I have.
Well, and you and I have done high school sports together for a long time. I don't say we when we cover Marion because that's where I went to high school. And I won't say we if I'm covering the game that has Penn involved because I worked there. Like that's not what I would do. But I have no problem with Jim Nantz when he's just talking about the team. I don't have any issue. If he's calling the game, that's different though.
That's exactly. I can live with that because I think these are more like interviews either with podcasts or radio or whatever. And again, he is an alum. He paid money to go to the University of Houston, so he belongs to the University of Houston. So I guess I can see that. Sean, you can say we when reading off my great question. Sincerely, we are not Marshall. And we will wrap it up on that tonight.
There it is.
Because again, Vince has birthday shenanigans to get to. So
yes, sir.
We've come in under time. You've got 2 minutes to spare. It looks like here at the end of the show.
That is not like us, Sean. So
that's right.
I'm excited.
All right, we've got more, of course, tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk, and then I'll be out Friday. I need to address with the boss what's going on Friday because I've got a basketball game at 3:30 in the afternoon. Kind of interferes with typical start time of our show.
Yes, it does.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for being here tonight. We will talk to you tomorrow. Happy birthday, Dylan DeDario, and we'll talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.